Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So you guys know the drill. It's another week. We're talking about another episode of Yellowjackets. This week we're talking about episode 4, which is called Old Wounds. Now, this is going to have spoilers in it. If you guys have seen my previous videos, you know that. But if you're new, just a heads up. Going to be a spoiler-filled review recap. So if you haven't seen the episode, make sure you check it out before you come back and watch this. Otherwise, if you don't care about spoilers, then we'll go ahead and get into the video. But before we do, if you are new, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell button, that way you get notifications for all my new videos. I've got multiple interviews with cast members up for this season so far. Got Nia posted, who plays Akila, and we got Jenna, who plays Melissa. So make sure you check those out. I got a couple more coming that I think you guys are really gonna like. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about episode 4. So the episode opens up in the 90s where we have Van and Ty. They're in the woods, and Van wakes up Ty from her possessed state. And when she does, tells her that she found another tree with a symbol on it and that Ty is tied to something going on in these woods. So Van brings up that maybe they should really talk to Lottie because Lottie could tap into what's going on with this whole situation. But as we've seen up to this point, Ty wants nothing to do with that. She doesn't want to speak to Lottie, says it's none of her business. And then we see that Van is actually making a map of all the trees that they found with the symbols on them. We then flash to the present day where Ty sees her mirror self, and we get some quick flashes of her talking to Jessica Roberts on the phone, her mirror self going through some cabinets, finds a folder, and then Ty wakes up. She's on the side of a road. Her the gas tank is empty, and then she sees the folder that has Yellowjackets on it, opens it up, and finds a picture of a video store. And then she gets out of the car and starts walking, and then we get the opening to the show. But we get a new version of the opening, which completely caught me off guard. I was like, wait a second, this is a new intro. Now, is that Sophie Thatcher singing the song? Or at least one of the voices in the song? To me, it sounded like her. I could be completely wrong, but if anybody knows who is doing the new version, or at least the version for this episode of the opening, please let me know down below in the comments. And I really hope that we get a full version of this release because I love this version. So yeah, I was excited to see that we got a new opening. I believe the scenes are pretty much all the same, but the song itself was a little different. So that was cool. After the intro, we see Jeff and Shauna. They're talking in the kitchen when Jeff asks Shauna about the car being found on the side of the road by a tow company. And Shauna's like, oh yeah, that's what happened. And you can just tell that Jeff isn't believing that. And my thing here, I'm just like, why, Shauna, why are you lying to Jeff at this point? Like you guys have already gone through everything with the affair. Why are you lying to him about something like this? I don't know, that kind of bothered me a little bit. Jeff then tells Shauna that the police know about the affair, and you can tell that Shauna's kind of confused. How did this happen? And Jeff explains that, well, you guys were out in public, someone probably saw you. And of course, Shauna comes back and says, oh, sorry, I should have been running around in a ski mask like you were. We then go to Lottie getting ready to head out for the day when Nat runs into her and asks her where she's going, but also asks her if she can have the keys because she wants to help Lisa run the farmer's market today. Lottie's kind of surprised by this, but Nat says, I think it will be a good bonding opportunity after Lisa forgave her for stabbing her before. After that, we see Misty. She's trying to call Ty again. She can't get a hold of her, so she leaves a voicemail. She's on the road with Walter, and Walter tells her that her friends are really lucky to have a friend like her where she constantly has their backs. And you can just tell that that really means a lot to Misty. So then Walter breaks out the tunes and tells Misty that she can pick from anything that they can listen to on their road trip. But then Misty calls him out and says, you know what, just drop the act. I think that you're one of those obsessive Yellowjacket fans. And Walter says, no, that's not it at all. I found you online and just really admired your work, so I wanted to work with you. And I just think you're a really interesting person. And he just happens to like musicals? I don't know about you guys, but I'm not buying the Mr. Nice routine here. I think there's definitely something going on with him that's more than meets the eye for sure. Whether he's a secret FBI agent undercover or he's part of another group. I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on that, so definitely let me know what your thoughts and theories are. We then go back to the 90s where Shauna comes into the cabin where everybody is and she says that someone has stolen some of their food. Now, it's interesting because first we had the mysterious someone pooped in the bucket, and now we have someone stealing food and no one's admitting it. So Who do you guys, do you think that it's maybe it's Ty and her sleeping, her possessed state? Do you think it's someone else in the group? I definitely want to hear who you think is doing these different things in the cabin when no one's looking. So then Mari tells Akila it was probably Coach who took the food, and Coach overhears him though and goes to defend himself, saying he didn't do it, but if he did do it, what would she do? Eat him? And then you can see, obviously, Mari gets offended by that, so she gets up, goes to confront him, but Nat comes over to defend Coach, and then they kind of get into a little fight where Mari says that it's all Nat's fault that they're not able to find any food because Nat's not taking Lottie's blessings when she's going out looking for different animals and for food. So we're starting to see just more and more division of the people who believe in Lottie and those who don't necessarily believe in Lottie. And then they bring up how all the birds appeared when the blood happened to drip on the symbol. Shauna and Coach, they just think that's a coincidence, but then Van brings up the fact that how the bear appeared in that whole situation and just mentions how that could be a coincidence. So finally, Nat says that they should have a contest between her and Lottie to see who can go out there and come back with more food for the group at the end of the day. Then we see in the present day, we see Nat and Lisa driving in the car when Nat asks Lisa about, is there any kind of rules about you guys leaving or anything like that? And Lisa just says to her that, nope, we're free to go. There's no really rules at the compound. Of course, then Nat brings up everyone wearing the color purple, and Lisa says that Lottie wanted everyone to feel like they were equal. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually really starting to like the relationship that's starting to develop between these two characters. I really appreciate it. So then we see Lottie. She obviously didn't go to the bank. She ended up going to therapy, and while she's there, she's talking to the doctor and says that she wants her meds upped because she's having visions again, as we saw in the last episode, and she wants them to stop. Now, she mentioned something about how her visions previously, they had become something else at some point, but then also says that she doesn't think they're real. Then we jump back to the 90s and we see Lottie and Nat are getting ready to head out, and watching this, I just knew right away, you know this is not going to end well. It's like, why are you guys doing this? Why are you having this contest? So they're getting ready to go out, but the problem is they only have one gun. Now, Mari speaks up and says that Lottie doesn't need a gun. She can go out and just get, these animals by herself with this little knife. And I'm just like, wow, I'm sure Lottie really appreciates that, Mari. Thanks for speaking up for her. And so they both start heading out into the woods, and we see Nat, she's going along the trail when suddenly she picks up some footprints, or hoof prints, and she starts following those. Back in the present day, we see Shauna, she's out shopping when she runs into Callie's friend's mom, and she just tells her, she says, thank you for letting Callie stay over for the past couple weeks or whatever it's been. And her friend's mom looks at her and says, actually, she hasn't been here for a while, which obviously we knew that, but Shauna didn't. And so Shauna goes home and she goes into Callie's room, goes through her drawers, and she finds the little piece of Adam's license that was in there. We then see Callie walking along the side of the road where she's texting the cop that she had met at the bar and talking about meeting up with him later when Shauna pulls up in her van, tells her to get in so they can go do something fun. Obviously, they're not going to do something fun. Then we go back to Walter and Misty. Now they're at a restaurant having some food where Walter tells Misty that she can't just go asking the waitress where a cult lives. So far, I'm really loving the interactions between Walter and Misty. They're probably some of my favorites so far this season. So as Misty and Walter's conversation continues on, she asks him what his deal is. How is he able to be out here? Does he have a job? What's going on with that whole situation? And Walter says no, he actually hasn't had to work in several years because several years ago, there was an accident where he was walking and a bunch of stuff fell on him. He got a settlement in court, and so now he's a millionaire, supposedly. And so, as that's kind of going on, Misty, she decides to ask the waitress anyways about the cult, and the waitress is like, oh yeah, you can find them at the farmer's market on Tuesdays. And today just happens to be Tuesday. Coincidence? So I was mentioning a little bit earlier about Walter and just how maybe he could be an undercover FBI agent. And I have another thought that this could be completely off basis, and it's probably not true, but I just got this weird thought feeling that maybe Walter, and I know he's not wearing purple or anything like that, but maybe he could be involved in Lottie's group, her cult of purple people or whatever. Maybe he has something to do with that in a way, but I don't know. I could be totally off of that. Like I said, I'm just pulling some of these like thoughts and theories out of my ass. But I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on that too, so let me know. We then see Ty. She's walking on the side of the road where she ends up getting picked up by a driver. And at first I'm like, yep, this is a bad idea. When you see hitchhiking in movies, rarely does it ever work, especially when it comes to thriller, horror type of films. So I was like, yeah, this guy's probably going to be a creep, especially when you see his pen that he has. But it's funny though, Ty actually asked if she can buy it off him, so that was pretty funny. So then we go back to the 90s where Mari hears the dripping once again, and again, it's only her that can hear it. She looks around the room, asks everybody, and no one else can hear the dripping besides her. So why is that the case? I know there's been a lot of theories. A lot of people think that she could be Pit Girl, and I don't know, maybe this ties into it. Maybe she's almost having a premonition or some kind of vision of herself where the blood's dripping from her body or something along those lines. I don't know. Again, I'm just throwing these theories, pulling them out of my ass. So I could be completely wrong, but she's the only one that can hear this. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think why that is. And so she asks Akilah if she can help her try and look for it. At first, Akilah's like, no, I don't want to, but she finally gives up and decides to look around with her. Akilah ends up finding this little mouse in the pantry, and she ends up hiding it from Mari. And I hope the poor little mouse doesn't get hurt, because I feel like if anyone else had found the mouse, that it probably would have gotten eaten, and it could very well still happen. But I was like, oh, that poor little guy being stuck in there with all those all the yellow jackets. And I'm really liking Akilah's character. We then go back to Lottie, who finds, if I'm remembering correctly, the finale of season 1, where they do their little ritual at the end there. She finds that same exact stump, because I believe you see some things like on the stump there, and probably from the finale. And she slices her hand, cuts it, and bleeds on it. And then we see Nat. She's in the woods still following the trail of the hoof prints that she had found. And then she gets down to the pond, or the lake or whatever, and it looks like she found something in the ice. In the present day, we have Nat and Lisa. They pull up to a house, which we end up finding out is actually Lisa's mom's house. So they go inside, because Lisa tells Nat that she wants to see her fish. So they go inside there, talking to Lisa's mom, and Lisa's mom is kind of giving her shit for a lot of things, and Nat actually defends her. We then see Shauna and Callie. They're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no cell reception or anything like that when Shauna tells Callie to get out of the car because she wants to talk. So Callie gets out of the car, and Shauna asks her if she wants to tell her about lying about being at her friend's all this time. And of course, then Callie brings up the thing with Adam's license. And finally, Shauna admits to her that yes, she actually did kill Adam, and that Jeff was involved with blackmailing her friends. So Callie knows everything, or at least most of the stuff now. Shauna starts to talk about what happened when they were out in the woods, but she tells Callie that maybe one day I'll be able to actually tell you what happened, because they feel ashamed of what did happen out there. And you can obviously tell that just getting all this information, Callie's obviously shook up, but Shauna tells her, she makes her promise that she will not tell anyone about this for obvious reasons. Back in the 90s timeline, we see Van and Ty talking to each other, and we see Van, she pulls out her map with all the trees that have the symbol on it, and we see that the trees, the way that they're set up on the map, when you put them together, they actually form the symbol that we've seen on all the trees, except for there's one spot missing, and Van asks Ty if she'll go out to look for it. Ty's naturally in denial, but she wants her to go out to try and find this one last tree to see if that's actually there. We then get another memory of Coach Ben where he's sitting there, he's reading a book, and we get a flashback of him and his boyfriend where he ends up finding one of his boyfriend's boxes with a bunch of memories, sentimental stuff, and you can tell Coach Ben feels a little awkward about finding this stuff, and his boyfriend goes to him, he's like, what, you don't have a box like this? And Ben says, no, I don't have any history like that. Back at Lisa's parents' house, we actually end up finding out that Lisa tried to kill herself previously, and she's arguing with her mom once again before Nat steps in and defends her. I'm kind of wondering, and I don't know if you guys are maybe getting this vibe too, do you think that Nat kind of sees herself in Lisa, and maybe that's why they're forming this connection with those two characters? That's the vibe that I'm kind of getting with those two, but yeah, curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are. So they get ready to leave, and you see Nat look at the fishbowl, and I was like, she's going to take the fish, isn't she? And they go out to the car, Nat comes out to the car. You can just tell. I was like, yep, yeah, she took the fish. All of a sudden, she gets in the car, grabs a vase or a jug of like water, spits the fish out, and she's like, there's your fucking fish. I was just like, Jesus Christ now. Then we go back to Misty and Walter. They go to the farmer's market and they see someone there and ask about the purple people again, which they're not there. Misty asks where their location is, and so Misty wants to go there right now. But Walter eventually convinces her to let's get a B&B, stay there tonight, and then go in the morning rather than going there at night, which I think honestly is probably a good idea too. We then jump back to the 90s, and Nat comes into the cabin. She tells everyone that she's found a moose, and so she needs everyone's help to go out and get it. But Mari's like, no, we can't help her. That's basically cheating. And everyone basically tells her to fuck off. They're like, we're gonna go get this moose because we don't want to be hungry. And you can tell that she's kind of pissed about that. And I'm just like, Mari, why are you being like this in this particular episode? I don't know like what her problem was in this episode, but man, she was getting on my nerves. So then we see Lottie. She's walking with her hand bleeding in the snow when she comes across Lee's plane, and she goes over to it and gets inside. Now, I could be completely wrong. I could be remembering it wrong because I didn't get a chance to actually go back and watch season 1 again before we got season 2. So if I got this wrong, guys, I apologize. But correct me if I'm wrong. In season 1, when Lee's plane went up, it either exploded or it caught on fire. And this thing looks, for the most part, it looks perfectly fine. I would have thought we would have had some kind of remains for Lee. All we see is her necklace. I would think there maybe be at least a skeleton or something in there, and there's nothing that we at least see. And then Lottie, she opens up like this compartment in like the seat or whatever and goes into a tunnel. At that point, you're like, okay, something weird's going on here. But I'm really curious about the initial part of her finding the plane. Was that real? Could Lee still be alive somehow? But we have been getting weird visions with her character, so I don't think that's the case. But I don't know, just that whole thing was a little weird. So anyways, Lottie, she goes down. She goes into like this elevator, which opens up into a mall. She starts walking around. You can tell she's freezing as shit. Face is super red. And eventually she stumbles across at least a good amount of the Yellowjackets. They're at a table in the food court. So she sits down. She's trying to eat when they're all asking her like random questions. Then Lee's there and she says, we need to get you out of here. If you don't get to somewhere warm, you're going to die. And then that's when Lottie, she gets pushed out of the vision or out of the plane, wakes up, or at least kind of comes to. She's laying in the snow. So I thought that whole scene was really interesting. And just like the connection, obviously we know that Lottie and Lee had a connection in season 1. So I'm glad that we got to see Lee's character again a couple times so far in the season. And I'm wondering if that's going to continue to play out throughout the rest of the season as well. So then we see the rest, or at least most of the rest of the group, they're trying to get the moose out of the water. And I just knew, I was like, oh, this is not going to happen. They're not going to be able to get that thing out of there. And so they're trying, and eventually, of course, the rope breaks, so they let go, and it falls in. Nat, she kind of dives in to try and almost save it, but so she falls in the water, can't get it. But when she looks in the water, now, I thought that maybe that moose wasn't actually a thing, but it looks like it actually was, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but that looks like the same exact moose that Nat saw when she was at the plane before. Because it looked like it was a white moose. I mean, maybe it was different, but I don't know. To me, just looking at it quickly, I thought that was the exact same moose. So evidently ended up falling in the lake and freezing. Back in the present day, we have Nat and Lisa. They're at this bar and they're having a conversation where Lisa mentions that she was there when Nat wanted to or was going to kill herself. And so she asks herself if she still wants to do that. Nat says no, she says not today, and she actually pushes her drink away, so I thought that was interesting. Then we go to Misty and Walter. They're getting ready to check into the B&B for the night. They get 2 separate rooms. You can tell Walter, I think, wanted to get one room with Misty, but she's like, nope, we're getting separate rooms. So they both go their separate ways into the rooms, and we get this nice scene where we get the split screens of both of these characters doing basically the exact same things, going throughout the room, making sure everything's right before they get ready for bed. And I thought that was hilarious. Great song playing throughout it as well. I thought at one point when they're both laying in bed, they're kind of shifting around a little bit, that they were both going to get up, meet in the hallway, and they were going to go into one of the rooms and hook up with each other or something possibly. But they didn't do that, which I actually kind of like that because we see that happen a lot in TV shows, so kind of like that they didn't go that route. But I'm loving all the Misty and Walter scenes so far. And then after that, we go back to Jeff and Shauna. They're back in their house, and Jeff apologizes for being a little bit judgy earlier on in the episode. And he just still feels kind of like weird about the whole situation, obviously with the affair and everything. And Shauna she understands where he's coming from, and she apologizes too. But before she tells Jeff that she has actually told Callie everything. And Jeff is obviously shocked. He's like, what did you do? And Shauna, she's like, oh, well, Callie, I had to tell her everything. And I think she's fine. She's going to be okay. And I'm sitting there watching the episode, and I'm just going, Shauna, come on. There's no way that you can think that your daughter is going to be okay. One, you have the whole thing with the affair, but then you just told your daughter that you murdered someone, your husband was blackmailing your friends. This all kind of fucked up. There is no way that Callie is okay. Come on now. And then Callie, she ends up coming into the kitchen. She offers to help, get things ready for dinner. And she apologizes to Jeff, saying that, she hasn't been going over her friends. She's actually been going out drinking, but she's not going to be doing that anymore. And you just have this really awkward vibe with the three of them in that room in that moment. Then we jump back again to the 90s where Nat, she's in a tub. She's trying to warm up from falling in the water when all of a sudden, cabin door opens up. A couple of the girls, they have Lottie, they bring her in, and her face is red as shit. I was like, oh man, she is going to lose some limbs for sure. It looks like she had frostbite. So Natalie offers, she gets out of the tub. They put Lottie in. And Nat actually apologizes for this whole situation kind of happening, and they have a nice little moment between those two characters. Then we go to back to the present day where adult Lottie, she is looking at a bunch of cards of people from the compound of saying what they're grateful for. However, as she's going through those, all of a sudden she sees the Queen of Hearts with the eyes blacked out. I know this has been something that a number of different people have brought up asking, what does this mean? And I believe back in season 1, it was Nat and Travis that had a conversation where that card was missing from the deck or something along those lines. So I'm really curious what you guys think the meaning behind that card is. She sees it a number of different times when she's going through these cards. And so Lottie gets up, she goes out of the compound, she has a knife in her hand, and she's walking down the stairs. And all of a sudden she cuts herself like she did, in the younger version, the 90s version of the episode, does the same exact thing and goes over and walks over to what looks like a stump again, and then just says something along the line of just be enough. Now, the interesting thing here, because I've seen some people saying that maybe the compound is actually where they got stranded, and I don't know, maybe that's what they're kind of hinting at here, but there's also part of me that I just don't know if I'm 100% ready to believe that yet, because some of that, the way that it's set up, I don't know, it has been, 25 years, or it's been a while since they've been out there, but the way that the compound and everything's set up, I guess they could have rearranged things, cleared things up, but I don't know, part of me also doesn't think it's the same place. Maybe they just she has a new stump where she does these ritual kind of things. I don't know, again, something else that I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on that whole situation. Do you think the compound is actually where the girls were stranded, or do you think the compound is something completely different? So then as the episode is starting to wrap up, back in the 90s, we have Van and Ty. They're out in the woods trying to find this one last tree, when all of a sudden they stumble across some melted snow, again, which I thought was interesting. And then all of a sudden, Ty sees someone running in the woods, so they go after him, and they end up finding out it's Javi. So Javi is alive. I think some people had seen pictures of him, photos of upcoming episodes or something, so people knew that he probably was going to be alive, but we have it confirmed now for sure in this episode. He is alive, so Javi wasn't the bear. I know that was like a theory that some people thought that maybe the bear was Javi and they killed him. So nope, Javi is actually still alive. When they go inside, obviously Travis and him are reunited. Nat sees this and she's like, well, yep, I'm fucked. I told you, Nat, that was going to backfire in a big way, and I'm sure we're going to get more of that soon. But my biggest question is, how the fuck did Javi survive for what? It's been like 2 months? Him just out there by himself? I feel like there has to be either like another group of people out there or something. Like, how was he able to survive just by himself out there when it's been this freezing cold? So then as they're all talking about Javi being alive, Van mentions that Lottie knew that Javi was alive, but Ty was the one that was able to actually find him. And so she thinks that Ty is somehow connected to everything that's happening in the woods. And finally, in the present day, we have Ty getting dropped off from the truck. When the truck goes by, all of a sudden she turns around and she sees the video rental store, or the video store, and it says, "While you were streaming." I love the name. She goes inside. I love this just because I'm a big physical media person, but then we see adult Van there for the first time. They are reunited, so I'm really excited to see these two characters get reunited after all this time. And yeah, the store itself, that was like one of my favorite things. I was so excited about that. So that is how episode 4 wraps up. Again, a lot of things to talk about. We got some answers. We have some more questions on different things. So again, I want to hear what your guys' thoughts and theories are. Definitely let me know down below in the comments. I want to hear all that discussion. What is your theories for the rest of the season? How do you see different things playing out? Let me know. Again, if you guys are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it. That way you get notifications for all my new videos. If you guys can, please give this video a thumbs up, as it really, really helps out the video. I appreciate that so much. I still got a couple more cast interviews, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. I already posted the ones, like I said in the beginning, with Nia, who plays Akila, and Jenna, who plays Melissa. So I'll be dropping a couple more, so make sure you don't miss out on those. And I'm going to be doing my weekly recap videos of these, continuing for the rest of the season. I can't believe we're already on, well, we just finished episode 4. Going to be going on episode 5. So yeah, thank you guys again so much for being here, watching these videos. I appreciate you guys so much. And as always, guys, please make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.